Well, happy holiday season, everybody, and welcome to the GeekWave. This is the low-budget show. The show so low, it hath no budget. Because why not, man? Why not start the holiday season off with a bang? You know, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I did my Christmas one a little too early, but it's okay. Let's just do a huge news dump, the last news dump of the year. A bunch of stuff we're talking about. We'll put it all in this video. We're talking Amazon for a bunch of different reasons. More DC stuff, Spider-Man, Sony stuff, Pokemon stuff, Barbie stuff. Bunch of stuff to talk about. It's going to be really fun. And like I said, this will be the last news-adjacent GeekWave of the year. There'll still be some coming out in the year. I think after this week, I'm pretty sure next week we're going to do like the theater experience again. I did that last year as kind of like a post-COVID just celebration of theaters, but I want to do it again this year just to kind of like talk about what I think worked and what didn't and how we should move forward from that. And then, of course, we will be doing top 10s coming out. I'm still working on how I want to do that. I'm deciding if I think I'll do all of the top 10s, movies, TV, comics, in one GeekWave like I did last year, and maybe separate videos on YouTube depending on each one. We're also going to be talking the sexiest of the year, which is important because comedy and stuff should be sexy, man. Things should be allowed to be sexy and hot and fun and spunky. Why not? Why not? Things deserve to be cool, man. And with that out of the way, we can celebrate a huge news dump. Like I said, I was kind of off for a week, so I didn't really do this last week when the world kind of fell apart again for the DC universe, but we'll save that news for last. Instead, we'll start with Mike Flanagan, who I think is stepping away from their Netflix deal. Is that right? Mike Flanagan, who made a lot of shows on Netflix, Bly Manor, Hill House, what's that one that just got canceled? The club one, the Midnight Club or something? Mike Flanagan's been doing a lot over there. And I think during the cancellation of the Midnight Club, they're like, okay, I'm not going to renew here. I'm going to take my creative ideas elsewhere. So Mike Flanagan headed over to Amazon to work on a Dark Tower series. And of course, you will all remember, because why wouldn't you? Way back in the day, like 2017 era movies and stuff, when we had a Dark Tower movie with McConaughey and Elba, and nobody saw it. Because what is that even? But I guess him doing this works. I don't know if Dark Tower is something a general audience will care about. Is it too esoteric and bizarre? Is it too much of a thing for anybody to really care? Mike Flanagan does have a loyal audience, but I wonder if that loyal audience is just people that have Netflix, that see his name and are like, oh, that's as good as Hill House. I don't know. I hope this would succeed because he's going to do great stuff no matter what. Flanagan's a talent and a natural at this kind of thing. I just find it really interesting that, and here we go, we're trying something big at Amazon. Amazon all about swings this week too. They're also doing God of War, which I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Do a God of War. I get it though, like when it comes to God of War, of course it was going to happen eventually, because look, they're all getting made now, especially at Sony. When Sony doesn't have a streaming service, they're like, we're going to dump everything on everything. You know, we're doing like a Spider-Man show on Amazon. We got Lord of the Rings, we got a Blade Runner show coming, and another thing which we'll talk about in conjunction to the DC news. But it's like, okay, Amazon, are you desperate for money? I guess. This is something that genuinely surprises me, that I've just been sitting here thinking about it. I've always said Apple TV is my favorite. And they still are. I still think they're making the best content out there. They don't have a franchise. Like, there's no actual franchise at Apple. It's just original series. I guess the closest would be the Godzilla show coming out, but that's not out yet. Very interesting. But cool, Amazon's going to be crushing it. Moving away from there, more news. I got to talk about this because it's utterly fascinating to me. The other day, Variety did their actors on actors, and then they did their directors on directors. Martin McDonagh came out, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I loved Banshees, one of my favorite films of this year. Who's he going to be talking to about like the filmmaking experience and all that stuff? Taylor Swift? Oh, okay. Because she directed All Too Well, and we're saying that's a movie? I wonder. Now, I know it didn't like play in theaters or anything, but I wonder if they're going to try to throw that in for Oscar consideration. I doubt it, but I wouldn't be surprised if she went for it. I do think Taylor might get a nomination for her song from Where the Crawdads Sing, but I don't know. I wonder if she's going to try that. That'd be very interesting to see. But no, I guess she did that. She directed another music video for one of her new songs off the Midnight's album. But she also was like, actually, I'm going to be making a movie. And you're like, what? Excuse me? And yes, she wrote a script. She wrote a treatment for a motion picture, a big movie time thing. Searchlight will be producing it. Taylor Swift is going to be a director. I am so excited for that for a number of reasons. None of them good. None of them are good why I'm excited for this. I just love the idea of letting her try. That's one of my favorite things in Hollywood, is just letting people try to do this stuff for no reason other than they can. Because why not? Why not let her attempt to make a movie? You know, it's fine. We let Bradley Cooper do it, and he had no experience, and then he made A Star Is Born and made Lady Gaga a star that is born in movies now. So why not let her try? There's going to be a loyal audience that comes out to see it. You know, look how Don't Worry Darling did, just because Harry stans are going to see anything he does. Imagine the Swifties coming out. Just saying, it'd be cool. But what I really hope is that this movie she's making has nothing to do with the music industry. That it's just like a weird original narrative that she came up with one night for no reason. And she's just like, this is my weird science fiction story about like a robot or something. That's what I want. That is what I'm craving. It's just a really bizarre Taylor Swift movie that has nothing for anything. I think that would be so freaking awesome. But it's probably going to be like, here's a young girl in the music industry, she's a country singer, bloop, bloop, bloop. Maybe. It does seem like maybe she would do something else. You know, maybe it's going to be more like a breakup story, coming of age, romance, whatever. Either way, I'm excited. I'm excited. Oof. Love me that stuff. Love me that energy. That's going to be very fun. Moving away from something like that does excite me, we are headed over to, the catastrophe that remains the Warner Brothers Discovery Library. So the day I'm recording this, a lot of their shows are being removed. I think some of the ones I'm going to talk about are being removed. It sucks. It's sad. It's hard to, like, I don't even know how many are going. Gorgita is gone today. Raised by Wolves is gone today. But the one I do want to talk about for a minute here is Westworld. HBO Max is removing Westworld from their platform. And yes, I know it just got canceled and every actor is going to be getting their payout for season 5. I am utterly baffled by the idea that they're removing Westworld. Because that's such a big streaming show. Like, it only grows a bigger audience when you give it time to digest. And I know this last season didn't do the best, but that was also like because we're post-COVID, the marketing was rushed and poorly executed. Nobody really knew what that was trying to be. But you just got to imagine, like, one of the big template shows of HBO Max from the mid-2010s onward was just taken off of HBO Max. If they're going to get rid of Westworld, and I know this is like, you're overreacting, but I'm not. If they're going to get rid of Westworld, nothing is safe. There are a couple things that, of course, they'll never get rid of, like The Sopranos, like all that shit. But nothing is safe now. Very bizarre. I don't feel comfortable with that. It doesn't bode well for the future of anything coming out. It just feels like we're going to be losing momentum on so much now. And I hate that feeling. I hate that that could happen to anything. Very bizarre. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more news coming out of HBO Max because, of course, we are. They are a recipe for disaster over there. Of course they are. But it's just like, what are we doing? What is the point of any of this? And Raised by Wolves, I know wasn't like the biggest hit, but it was a Ridley Scott produced alien weird AI movie franchise. I'm like, that should have been going? Like, why get rid of something so specific? I hate that. I hate that that's happening. It doesn't bode well for anybody working over there. It's very bizarre to see that. So, some other weird news to kind of talk about. Two things that really need to be mentioned in the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters. First one, we have our Across the Spider-Verse trailer. So that came out the other day, and I'll be completely honest, did nothing for me. Like, I am excited for this film. I think it's going to be really fun. They said Jason Schwartzman's going to be playing the Spot, and he's going to be the villain for the next 2 movies. And I'm like, that's a really fun idea. Because who is doing anything with the Spot? Such a cool character, works perfectly for animation. That is completely an idea you have and you should explore and you should do something with. I am 100% on board with the Spot doing something. I think that's cool. But the trailer shows us no Spot, which I think is a shame because it kind of should. Why wouldn't it? If they're the central character, I think like we should see them. But then the trailer it did that thing I really don't really like, where it's just, oh man, all the heroes are going after the one guy because he thinks differently about something. I'm like, have a civil discussion. So the trailer is a lot of Spider-Man in some weird Spider-Man portal area chasing Miles. And I'm like, that's cool. As somebody who's not like the biggest fan of Spider-Man, seeing all of them really does nothing for me. I know people are like, Spider-Man Unlimited's in there, and then like maybe Superior's in there, and Superior's my favorite Spider-Man interpretation. So that's kind of interesting. We also see Mayday. We have little baby Mayday in here, and I'm like, that's cool. I like that idea. More little baby Mayday is really fun. I just cannot wait to see if that movie blows up and little Mayday becomes a popular character, how they're going to integrate that into the comics. I don't know if they will, but they might try that. Sometimes they do that for no reason. Sometimes they do it because it's fun. I could see that happening. Very cool. Miguel looked good. I think it looks a lot like Oscar Isaac, which is very a good idea because, well, let's face it, he's the perfect casting for a live-action Miguel O'Hara. I don't know, like it looked fun. The animation feels like it's going for too many styles at once, and it just didn't like encapsulate any specialty for me. I have no attachment to like the PlayStation Spider-Man either, so seeing them in there really didn't like hit home in any capacity. But I will say, I'm excited. I think this franchise should stand on its own. I wish we could do like a Miles movie that didn't need a bunch of other Spider-Man to show up, where he could just be the Spider-Man as opposed to a Spider-Man. But I get what you're doing. I also liked how the trailer focused on his mom, when in the last movie it was like the relationship with his father and his uncle, which were really the crux, and now it looks like his mother's going to be playing a more prominent role in who he's going to become, which is very exciting. I think that's kind of cool. That interests me more than like the, hey, who's that big beefy Spider-Man in the background? Who's the ninja one? The Spider-Man of India is going to be in the movie too. They're saying the Japanese Spooderman is going to be in there, so that's fun. It doesn't, like, yeah, awesome, let's ride. It doesn't do that to me. But whatever, I'm just a girl. Don't worry about me. But that's not all of the spider news we have. Oh, this is awesome. This got me so freaking pumped for no reason. So, the other day, Sony was like, okay, you guys really liked Morbius, clearly. We know you're pumped for Kraven and Venom 3 and Madam Web. We know you're pumped for those. We know you're super freaking excited for El Muerto. They know us. Sony, more than anybody, knows us, the fans, and what we want. So they're like, let us give you something you were begging for. Donald Glover in a Spider-Man adjacent property. And you're like, oh, is he doing a Prowler movie? That's a really smart idea, because then you can bring in Miles that way, show the complexity of that character. They're like, no, he's actually Hypno Hustler, I should say. Like, what? He's what? He's Hypno Hustler? Like, what? And everyone collectively pauses. They do the thing where you're like, who the hell is Hypno Hustler? He uses music and a band to like rob people from the 70s. Clearly, you're like, what? And I I know what interests Glover about that. He is clearly a fan of like old school disco, funk, Motown, like that energy. Clearly, if you've seen any of his dancing on stage or in any of his videos, he loves that beat. He loves that aesthetic. So if he can play like a character from a comic book with that energy, I think that makes sense. Does it make sense for the year 2025 or whenever this is going to come out? No. If they put this in the 70s, would it make sense? Yeah, I guess. Also, Eddie Murphy's son is writing it, and I'm like, did he work on Dolomite? Because I could see how like the score and the vibe of Dolomite could be something that would interest Glover to do. But then again, is this leading to something? Why would it? Like, is Hypno Hustler, like, okay, on paper, I'll say this. It's a movie I would watch about like a guy who uses music and groovy tunes to rob you. I think that's kind of cool. I don't know if I trust Sony to do anything fun with that concept, but I trust Glover to do something fun with that concept. Like, the guy made an influential TV show that changed the game. So I can kind of be excited for this, but at the same time, you have to ask the question. One, what the fuck are you thinking about making Hypno Hustler? Why would you think that's a good idea? And two, why not just do Prowler? Because he could play a more emotional range? Because you can't... Maybe he doesn't want to play like an emotionally complex character. Maybe he wants to be like a guy that like dances around in like, you know, just like rollerblades and just does whatever and just like, you know, jives out to good music, whatever he wants to do. I'm looking at pictures of Hypno Hustler, and he's got the Mercy Killers as his band. I'm like, okay, cast a bunch of beautiful black actresses in that role, you know, get some good beats going. Musical, right? We want this as a musical. Is it like, it should be a musical, right? I'm so conflicted on this property. I want to say this is stupid, but also I do want to see it. If Donald Glover wears that stupid costume, I think it'll be worth it. Look, please put him in that stupid white costume with the big goggles and the pink guitar. I feel like he'd do it, you know? I feel like he would commit to that. But what are we doing with our lives, man? This is like one of those moments where you just have to stop and think, like, is this worth investing like $50 million into? Is it? Should it be? Why are we doing that if we are? Like, what is the point of anything, really? If we're willing to let this happen, what is society about? I don't know. So bizarre. But moving away from there, we do have a little bit of like a sad conclusion to an arc to talk about. So for the first time since the conception of the anime, Ash Ketchum will not be the lead in a Pokemon series going forward. So January marks the end of the Ash era, which is fairly shocking because I remember him just being there my whole life. He was the guy on the anime. He just went through it the entire time. I think since before I was born, he was like doing it. And now they're replacing him. I say replacing loosely. His story has come to an end. He is now a champion or like a master, whatever. So I just think like, what a weird moment to be a part of where like the icon of Pokemon is suddenly going away. It's kind of fascinating. And I'm pretty sure he'll like appear again as like the old mentor in some form or capacity. I just think it's very fascinating that that's what's going on and how that's happening. Very cool, very interesting, very fascinating stuff. And one other piece of news I do want to talk about is the Barbie trailer. Of course it is. I have to talk about the Barbie trailer. I saw it not at my screening of Avatar. Like, they were hyping it up, and mine just like, do you want to see Guardians again? I'm like, no, I don't. I already know what Guardians is. I don't want to see it again. but I saw it. They released it online. Opens up with a spectacular homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, which on paper is just like, cool, look at, they're finding something to play with. It's also like, no, I guess if you look at it in terms of like revolutionary toys for little girls, Barbie did kind of like change the game and give you something new to create and aspire to be. Because before that, dolls were just kind of like dumb and raggedy and just like soft cloth baby poo, you know? And it's like, what about a cute girl who can go to space or be a doctor and you can just swap her outfits, you can brush her hair, and she has like a curvy body, and you're like, okay, that's cool. And then you got Margot Robbie standing there, the classic looking swimsuit from the vintage Barbie doll, and she winks to the camera, and I'm like, fuck, you did it. You really, oh, she looks so fucking gorgeous, so perfect as Barbie. I'm genuinely blown away by how much I'm loving the way she's looking. That was perfect. Then we just get like a couple other shots. We get to see all the different Kens. That's very exciting for me. This is great. I think Greta is like the perfect age for a girl who knows the history of Barbie, but it's also like, let's talk about how weird it is. It's such a beautiful thing. And yes, the Oppenheimer trailer came out. You know what that's going to be. You know, no CG nuclear explosion from Nolan. That's all fine and dandy. But let me tell you what's exciting. Barbie dolls. That's cool. I love it. And we get to see like the playhouse that they're going to live in. I'm like, fuck yeah. This is what I wanted. This is what movies are meant to be. This is what I've wanted. Like, it looks great. Costumes are great. I know it's going to make a lot of money, because who doesn't want to see this? I think it's going to be an Oscar contender. What a bold proclamation, but I really think this might be the one movie that breaks through and becomes like the genre pick that makes people go like, oh yeah, we should really be representing genre in a bigger capacity. Such a bizarre thing to say, just giving off like one trailer, but I really think that's the case. The dancing looks great, the costumes are great, Margot looks great, Ryan looks great. 100% on board. 100% on board for this Barbie movie. Love every second of it. So ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about all the fiascos going on in DC right now. Another day, another DC cinematic universe in shambles. Just a bunch of shit going on. So there was a lot to kind of talk about, and it's all because James Gunn is very vocal with his fans, and I appreciate that. We're going to run it down, I guess, step by step. Probably not going to cover everything that was talked about, because you pretty much know it by now. We'll hit the big moments, the Wonder Womans, the Aquamans, the Batmans, the Black Adams, and of course the Cavils of it all. So we'll start with like the stuff with Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman and all that. So Gal one day was like, I love being a part of Wonder Woman, best years of my life, so happy to be here. The next day, it's announced that Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward. Everyone's like, oh, that makes sense. 84 was a weird one. I liked 84. There are stuff in it that are inexcusable, and I'm amazed it got made. And I completely understand how a studio's like, we don't want to make another one of those. I get that. I wholeheartedly get that. And everyone's like, oh, it's because Patty Jenkins didn't want to like rework her script. And she's like, fuck you, Warner Brothers. I'm going to make whatever I want. I'm the best at this. That's what it was sounding like. Patty Jenkins came out and said there was an idea we could make another script or rework it. I decided not to. I don't know why she didn't do that. I wonder if it's just because what she wanted to do fit in with the new regime. It probably would have had Steve Trevor come back in some weird way, connect him to whoever and whatever. The rumor was like, we're going to get Chris Pine as Hal Jordan. And I'm like, why? Why would he want to do that? Either way, it's starting to sound like we're not doing a Wonder Woman thing with Gal. Now, that's one of those ones that hasn't been confirmed yet. Gunn has not said, like, no, Gal's out. But here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. Everyone else she's next to and on her roster is not going to be in the movies anymore. Ray Fisher isn't coming back. Ezra Miller is probably going to go to prison one of these days. we're probably going to end the Momoa legacy with The Lost Kingdom and have him show up as Lobo, which I said from day one. I'm like, this guy, I know why you get him as Aquaman, because you want to make Aquaman like the opposite of Superman, like this disgustingly hot dude who's ripped and shredded and like a biker compared to like the Boy Scout. But that's not Aquaman. Aquaman, even at his darkest moments, was not a biker. He was just angry. Big difference. Big difference. He always looked like Lobo. And he's like, I don't know, man. Should I be Lobo? Lobo's cool. I got all the Lobo books. Lobo, Lobo, Lobo. So if his Aquaman's ending, I'm 100% okay with that. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Like, I get it. I get how we need to move away from this era. I've been saying for a very long time, you have to do a clean slate. All of it. Wipe all of it off the docket. Everything. Start over. I would love to see more of the Batman universe. You can start over from that too. Or use that as like your launching pad. I don't care. But you have to start over. So I don't think Gal's going to be staying as Wonder Woman. I know it's weird to say, but it's not that she's like an old actor, but the way things are sounding, we're skewing to a younger demographic, and she's going to be in her 40s by the time we figure out this new world order for all this stuff. So I don't imagine she's going to be sticking around. I just don't think that's the case. Now, Momoa as Lobo, I can understand seeing that, because Lobo can be an ageless being. I feel like maybe more than other actors in this world, Momoa's just about like, yeah, okay. I'm sure he loves being Aquaman. It's very cool that he got to be Aquaman, made a really interesting Aquaman movie, and he's got a sequel coming out next year. That's really exciting. But I'm also not beholden to his interpretation. I would love to see another Aquaman movie. I know that's probably not a priority right now, but it would be really cool to see like a more accurate depiction of those characters. I say accurate depiction when it perfectly nailed all of them but Mera, and I think that's kind of crazy. Like, they did Black Manta better than you could ever imagine doing Black Manta. But it's just kind of weird, like, that's where we're going. Very weird stuff. I do like it. I do like that a lot. So, if he's Lobo, I get it. But that also means none of that generation is coming back. What does that mean about the Suicide Squad or Shazam or the Blue Beetle film coming out? If any of those were to be reworked for the upcoming continuity, I think it would be Blue Beetle, because it's not really like connected to anything else. I really liked the Shazam movie, but I do think this Billy doesn't fit into what we're doing, because those Shazam movies and what we've seen from the new one is clearly a parody or like spoofing off of like the Snyderverse stuff, where he's like the opposite of those universes. So I don't think that Shazam would work with the new one. Now, I don't know what you would do for a new Shazam, but I guess something else, I guess. I don't know. It's weird to say, but let's talk for a minute about the man who got burned the most by literally cutting his own bridge off. Dwayne Johnson, Black Adam. So last time on the GeekWave, we talked about how it was probably going to lose money. Dwayne Johnson and his team were quick to leak something to Variety that was like, actually, we're going to be making money. And then we found out that they did leak that. Their idea was to make it sound like this movie was going to be profitable so he could look cool. Like, remember how much the first Captain America made? And you're like, yeah, in 2011? Like over a decade ago, when that wasn't like the norm and you weren't you, and that's what your movie's doing. So it actually lost money. Dwayne Johnson was being a little bitch about it, and it doesn't sound like he's having fun, and that's exciting. And then somebody just like put out this new article about like The Rock's journey with DC and all the characters he was trying to do, and he was just like, I'm going to take control of the cinematic universe. I'm going to be the #1 guy in it. He chose Black Adam because he's like, I can build a world around Black Adam. And I'm like, you can't, you won't. That's not what a Black Adam is. So it's so fucked, man. It's one of those things. I don't know like the sphere outside of what I'm in and what those people feel, Because the people I talk to about this, like my family and my friends, and I try to explain it to them, I don't know if like the cachet of The Rock's name is wearing off on them more than it is just wearing off on me. But it's just so freaking bizarre that like the number one actor in the world was so hard, just had like the hugest hard on for getting a DC film made where they could be the center of the universe. They chose Black Adam and said, fuck the comics, fuck everything. I'm fighting Superman. He wanted to do that with Jon Stewart. What does that even mean? Like, it's so bizarre that he was willing to die on that hill. 15 years in the making for him to be the center of the DC universe. He leaked on his own stupid numbers saying his movie was profitable. He worked his ass off to get Cavill to come back in a cameo just for all of that to be completely wiped out in a millisecond. I think that's hilarious, and it just goes to show you, I don't know if The Rock's reputation is going to survive this. Sure, he's got a couple more movies, but I don't think him emotionally will be able to bounce back from this as good as he wants to. And that's awesome. I'm not saying he needs to be knocked down a peg. I just think it's like, yeah, dude, you can't just show up and whip your dick out and expect everyone to suck it. Like, you have to do something else. And I think this is going to be the lesson he needs to learn. Maybe he'll do another franchise. I wouldn't be surprised if he immediately called Kevin Feige and was like, yo, I'll do fucking Galactus, man. Like, I'll do anything. You put me in, I'll do Annihilus, dude. I'll do it. I'll like be your next big bad or your next hero. And then like they'll coerce the world to warp around him. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Maybe he'll do the God of War thing. Who's to say? I hope not, because he'd be terrible. The Rock's not a good actor, and he was a bad Black Adam, and he clearly never read a Black Adam book in his goddamn life. I don't care what he says. You clearly do not understand the character. So speaking of all of that, I did say that he worked like through blood, sweat, and piss to get Cavill back as Superman. Cavill went to Instagram, he's like, hey, so I'm in the movie, #love it. Next day, sorry guys, so news just dropped, I'm not going to be Superman anymore. And we're like, no shit. And again, look, I've said this a bunch, it bears repeating. I don't really like Cavill's Superman. I think he looks the part. He's a sexy dude, almost too sexy for Superman. But every movie he's been in has been rough and just a bad interpretation of what that character could be. So I don't think bringing him into a new era was worth it. Plus, how old is Cavill? I'm going to look that up, because if we are skewing to continue making these movies, Cavill is 39. So he wouldn't be starting until he was maybe 43 when the next one actually releases. So it's like, what are we even doing, you know? And on top of that, his cameo and Gal's cameo in the Flash movie were cut. So we don't need it. We don't need it, right? So he's out. He's out. The first one they've officially announced is gone. They didn't say anything about Gal yet. They didn't say anything about Ezra or Fisher or Momoa. But the first one they've officially announced that's out is Cavill. Again, nothing on Batfleck. He's probably not going to do it. Pattinson's in his own universe. They've said that. Nothing on the Suicide Squad characters or any of that. Cavill's out. James Gunn also said, we're working on a treatment for Superman. I'll be writing. It's about the earlier days of Clark Kent coming to Metropolis as a reporter. And I'm there. Like, that is what this has needed for a long time. Not just like a reboot, because they've always needed a reboot. That's like their thing. But just getting it right. Focusing on the right elements. And again, I am not a Snyder hater in any capacity. He just focuses on the wrong aspects of those characters to make a compelling narrative. Snyder's all like, what do you do if you have the powers of a god and you could destroy mortal men? Like, how do you fight that off? How do you become like their symbol when you could kill them all? I'm like, don't do that. Don't focus on that. Telling me you're doing a younger Superman's really cool, because do you know how awesome? And I know, like, it's the thing, it's the Spider-Man thing for me too, where we've had 3 Holland Spider-Man movies, and I feel like we never really got him like a Spider-Man arc, where the end of No Way Home feels like, okay, now he's doing a Spider-Man thing. He lost his Uncle Ben. He lost his love. He's going to finally do something and build up a new thing. And I like that. Do you know how cool it would be over like 10 years? We get a Superman movie. We're introduced to the Daily Planet, to Jimmy, to Perry, to Lois, to Cat Grant, to Bibbo. We put them all in there. We meet Lex. We meet the Toyman. We meet Metallo and Bizarro and all of those characters. We set up the roster of a Superman universe. Everyone's there. We could do a spin-off over here. Oh, here's like the John Henry Iron Steel thing. Oh, here's the Adventures of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes or something. We spin all of that off. And then over an actual progressive 10 to 12 years, we see they're getting married. Maybe they're going to have a son. We see the death of Superman, the reign of the Superman. Like, all of these important moments happening in a Superman, like, cohesively. Not just one movie, then we kill him. But, like, here is the evolution of this character. Like, I don't think people understand how amazing it would be to actually build up to a crisis movie. Like, I think, not a Justice League movie, but like a crisis movie. Because if you do a crisis movie, you can have every other world come back. They did it on television and it worked. Imagine that with like the budget of a movie. I'm like, that is so cool. And in this era where the MCU has has like a chokehold over popular culture and all this stuff, and people are starting to feel the wear and tear. We're going into phase 5 of the MCU. Phase 5. Wouldn't it be refreshing to see the origin of your favorite characters? Like a Superman, we do a Batman movie. Oh, they do a World's Finest. They team up to fight something together. And then boom, we go back here. And then boom, we go back here. And then here's a new Wonder Woman movie. And here's a new Aquaman movie. And here's a new Green Lantern movie. Here's a Zatanna movie. They all come back together for a Justice League movie. And then boom, we go to New Corners and a new Superman movie and blah, blah, blah. And then boom, Final Crisis happens. Like, that's refreshing to me. And I am curious about Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and all that. But that universe is going into year 14? Year 14? Is that what this year is? It's a lot. It's a lot. And if we want to get like another big cinematic universe, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting over with Superman. Because if you're going to do it, Superman needs to be the linchpin. Snyder got that for all the wrong reasons, but if you're doing it, it's got to be Superman. Now, I don't have any actors specifically in mind. I did take to like Twitter and TikTok. My Clark would be Cameron Kelman from Stargirl, who plays Hourman on that. I think he looks young and is right enough for it. My Lois is obviously Maude Apatow. I think she'd be perfect for that. And my Lex Luthor is Ewan Mitchell, who plays the crazy, one-eyed son of a gun Targaryen in House of the Dragon. Like, they're all young, age into the roles. Be really cool to see. I love that. I think it'd be awesome. So I am on board for this. Gunn is an interesting choice to write. He didn't say he was directing, though. I think you could get a number of directors on board for this. So that's very cool. Because you got to start over. And you know what? I've also been doing a series of videos on all of these characters. So let's just throw it out right now. I already told you Cameron Kelman would be my choice for Superman. What about Sydney Chandler for Wonder Woman? Interesting choice. I might say so. What's the name of the guy from Bridgerton for Hal Jordan? I even did the video on it. But one of the Bridgerton guys for Hal Jordan, a little older, kind of doesn't fit into like this new universe we're talking about here. But you know, let's see if I can find it. Which one is it? I don't remember. There's too many Bridgerton people. Luke Thompson was my choice. He might be a little too old for this new generation, but I think it could work. Lewis Pullman for Aquaman. That'd be kind of fun. Jack Quaid for Barry Allen. Not a nepotism in this Justice League, but that's okay. But that's kind of cool. I like that. I think all of that is really exciting and needed to happen. Whether you're happy about it or not, this is something that needed to go down, and I'm glad it did. I'm genuinely glad it did. So, with that in mind, the next couple years of this channel are going to be all about the upcoming Superman movie. And that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So that is going to do it for this episode of The GeekWave. Now, thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, please give us a rating over there. It definitely helps out the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Hive. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Up, and away. Have fun.